episode of Shamrock Sports 2023. I'm Tyler Reidy along with JJ Post. JJ, happy holidays to everyone watching. Happy holidays to you. It's certainly been quite a year, and we're glad as always to finish it right here.
Yeah, a couple gifts will be given out to other colleges around the country given the recent activity in the portal. I'm excited to see what we've got on the schedule today. I'm sure there's a lot of news to talk about in the Notre Dame football world and Notre Dame sports world in general.
Yeah, big weekend for Irish sports. Hockey hosting Michigan at Compton Family Ice Arena. Men's soccer in the Elite Eight at home against Indiana Saturday night as well, with a chance to go to the College Cup in Louisville. But again, big news for the Notre Dame fan base has been the football team. Even with the regular season in the books, we await a bowl game, but for now, the transfer portal dominating all attention with several Notre Dame pass catchers, mostly from the wide receiver room, 9 players in total, hitting the portal this past week. JJ, how do you make sense of all the changes we've seen so far with the Irish roster?
Yeah, I mean, the receiver room, I think, is the easiest to explain. Chancey Stuckey was the leader of that room, and the people that were recruited by him, the people that, maybe came to this room in part because of him, yeah, they're likely to leave. Sometimes you don't commit to a school, you commit to a coach. That's not uncommon in college sports, and I think we've seen a couple players who maybe were examples of that, and they're going to leave. They're going to try to find new roles. Chris Tyree was an interesting one. I think he was less because he's a huge Stuckey guy and more because, he can be a number one option somewhere. And for a player that is still developing his receiving skills, a player who thinks he can go in the NFL draft one day, to get all the targets at one school instead of just trying to be like a complementary piece in this Notre Dame offense, that makes a little more sense, I think. So I think him leaving is not much of a surprise either. Notre Dame, I think the biggest problem is going to be the boundaries because the slot, they're stacked. They got Faison, Greathouse, both still in the rotation, both seem like they will be staying. Those are 2 good slot players. The real question is on the boundary where Notre Dame is losing a lot of players.
Yeah, one of the big questions right now this week, how concerned should Notre Dame fans be right now? The level of concern continues to grow with each piece of breaking news. You lose a top-tier freshman in many fans' eyes, Enrico Flores at the wide receiver position. Chris Tyree, the senior wide receiver, converted running back, was having a solid year himself with plenty of experience under his belt. But at this point, should fans be concerned right now, or is there more to this that we might need to wait on to see how things develop?
I mean, I think it's a yes and no, because on one hand, so much of it depends on what we do at the receiving coach position, which we still haven't replaced yet. Who is the hire? Do we have a hire in place that we want to bring in? If the answer to that question is yes, I think the panic level changes significantly, because if we had a plan for what we want to do, if we knew getting rid of Stuckey would lead to attrition and we knew a new coach would bring in new players, if that was a planned, plan of attack Freeman had, something that he knew he was going to happen this offseason, then that's not something to be worried about because it means they know where they're going to go. They're probably going to get some grad transfers, players with maybe some proven college production, and they can get those players to fill in. If that's not the case, and they just knew they wanted to get rid of Stuckey but didn't really have a secondary plan after that, that's when you kind of wonder about what's going to be happening in this receiver room. I think it's probably somewhere between the two. I don't think they had this secession-esque plan for how they wanted to remake the receiver room, but I do think they knew probably they wanted to transition a bit. They didn't get a ton of production out of anyone but really Flores and some of the other younger guys. Chris Tyree also in there. Jaden Thomas might have had some production, but he was injured really for most of the year, so you can't really tell. Regardless, he's staying. I think, if you're Notre Dame, it's just going to be a matter of how many receivers can you get in the portal. I think you're probably going to need 2 to 3 at this stage, I think would be a healthy number. But who are those receivers? Are they grad transfers? Are they, maybe freshmen with some promise? What type of player are you targeting in that portal role, I'd say, is going to be where you really discover how much Notre Dame truly lost. Because right now, Notre Dame is without a bunch of promising players. Tobias Merriweather, very promising player. Braylon James, very promising player. And a couple, rotational guys, Flores, Tyree. But they haven't lost, I'd say, a star. Can they get someone that would fill that, production? That's the question now.
So we talked about the wide receiver room, but the rest of the roster as well has some areas that could potentially grow throughout the offseason. Notre Dame already the favorite to land Duke transfer quarterback Riley Leonard, who entered the portal earlier this week. Notre Dame faced Riley Leonard, beat him at the end of September earlier this season. Now, JJ, if you had to pick one positional group outside the wide receiver, tight end room that clearly need to be addressed right now, what does Notre Dame need to gear themselves toward addressing throughout this offseason here?
I'm going to say offensive tackle. And it's weird to say that because I think you can fairly say Notre Dame has more young talent in the offensive line room than pretty much any other position on the field. Maybe linebacker, you make an argument, cornerback, but more than most positions in the field, Notre Dame, I'd say, is confident both internally and the fans are confident that they have the guys in the Class 23, the Class 2022 to eventually grow into quality players in the offensive line. That being said, you're heading into Texas A&M next year, game one, probably one of, if not the loudest environment in the country, probably starting a new left tackle, a new right tackle, and a new center. How many young guys can you feasibly put up on the road in Texas A&M and expect to, compete? And, there are talented players, no doubt. Amil Wagner, talented guy. Charles Jagasaw, talented player. These are all players that, maybe down the line and probably down the line will have roles to this Notre Dame team. But right now they need a veteran, someone that they can just rely on to be an anchor. No false starts, no, kind of the mental mistakes that you see young players on the line, especially where communication is so paramount. Make those mistakes on the road in big environments. Big environments were a problem for Notre Dame this year. They couldn't win on the road in Clemson. Felt like pre-snap penalties were a problem against Louisville. Really every time they went to a major road environment, there were some degree of problems. And I think if you're Notre Dame, number one way you can remedy that is make sure, next year you have someone who you can rely on anchoring either the right tackle or the left tackle spot. You can have someone like Ashton Craig filling at center because he showed a lot of promise in those final 2 games. You can have one of the other tackles be a young guy, someone you can grow, someone you trust and you think has a lot of potential. But one of those positions need to be a guy that you just know what you're getting.
Busy week already, and a lot more to come during the offseason as Notre Dame football looks to gear up after a maybe 9-10 win 2023 and head into next season. But a lot of that revolves around coaching. And for more on that, let's head to our fabulous panel of Jake Irons and Ryan Murphy. Take it away, fellas.
Thank you so much. Festive greetings to you as well. After a beautiful rendition of Grandma Got Ran Over by a Reindeer yesterday at NDTV Karaoke, his performance stood out, but someone's performance did not stand out this year, and that was Chancey Stuckey in the wide receiver room. And alongside Ryan Murphy, I'm Jake Irons, and we're going to have a lot of fun here on this one. But it was a wide receiver room that didn't necessarily live up to the expectations you would have wanted.
Yeah, no, and it was very interesting. Marcus Freeman came out in his press conference on Monday, and he said that he would have really liked to get all of the coaching staff back. And then on Tuesday, he turns right around less than 24 hours later and announces that Chancey Stuckey's relieved of his duties. And he came down and said that he was just disappointed with the production of the wide receiver room this year. So really interesting. You can't kind of get into the mind of Freeman there, what made him turn around in less than 24 hours. Maybe it was just lip service to the media, right? Yeah. And that happens. But yeah, that'll be a big change for Notre Dame, I think, going forward.
Yeah, there will be a big change with that going forward. But you also have to look at, in the grander scheme, the offense overall didn't take that next step forward here under Jared Parker in his first year at offensive coordinator. And you had an upgrade at quarterback for the first time in a while, and everyone thought you just needed a quarterback, but here in Parker's first year, it didn't really show that way.
Yeah, we'll come back to Jared Parker in a second because he's another guy who many Notre Dame fans were talking about, well, maybe his job should be on the line too. Yeah. But ultimately, he goes to relieve Stuckey of his duties, and it's because, like you said, it's the passing attack that really struggled this year. And I really thought the Stanford game was really exemplary of that. Notre Dame won that game on the ground. They had 381 yards rushing, I believe, something or in that neighborhood. And it was close early on because the passing attack, Notre Dame couldn't find any holes in a Stanford defense that isn't really that great, Jake. No. So that really exemplified, and that's just the way it's been all season. Notre Dame, a historically good offense, actually. I think they finished 9th in the country, but the passing attack wasn't part of that historically good offense, or at least part of its success.
Yeah, and you look at the passing attack here for this offense, and you have to question whether Parker coming back is the right move. We all remember the Ludwig situation where Ludwig is seen at a hockey game sitting up there with head coach Marcus Freeman, and everyone knew that they wanted to have a quarterback in that spot and have that situation, that you wanted a big-time OC. You get almost forced into a tight ends coach in Jared Parker, and I think that's what makes this one so much more of a heated conversation, is because he wasn't the first choice.
Yeah, and I did feel like in big games, Jake, Notre Dame did get a coach on the offensive side of the ball. They didn't score more than 23 points in their 3 losses that they had. And I didn't think the conversation about getting rid of Parker was unwarranted, right? Now, when you finish 9th in the country, or at least 9th in the country right now, ranked in points per game, I'm not sure you can fire your offensive coordinator. They put up historically good numbers for a Notre Dame offense. Is it worth firing an offensive coordinator? I don't know.
It's a question mark that you have to have, and I think that echoed it was a sentiment Coach Freeman stated earlier this week in media availability of just saying, you have to play better when we play better defenses. Yeah. That was, I think, the biggest calling card, because you can put up against Wake, you can put up against Pitt, you can put up against Tennessee State and Central Michigan, but what comes calling when you play the Ohio States, and what comes calling when you play some of those top teams like Duke at the moment and Louisville?
Absolutely, and that's where you need just a more dynamic attack than Notre Dame had. And I think the fact that we're having this conversation about, Coach Parker's job, it's looking right now like Marcus Freeman has backed him and will consistently back him, right? But the fact that we're having this just goes to show you just how much talent this Notre Dame team has, and they're feeling like they underachieved this season, and that's why maybe you're going to see some coaching shifts this offseason. We've already seen one.
Yeah, we've already seen one indeed. One place that you're not going to see a coaching change here in the near future is Niele Ivey, who's continuing to rocket this Notre Dame women's basketball team to the next level. They had a big win this past week, taking down in the ACC-SEC Challenge the Volunteers from Tennessee. Our own Kian Bagenstow breaks it all down.
After bowing out last year in a Sweet 16 against Maryland, Coach Niele Ivey and the Fighting Irish women's basketball team have been off to a solid 6-1 start despite not having All-American point guard Olivia Miles. To start out the season, Ivey's squad played a historical game in Paris against number 6 at the time and number 1 currently, South Carolina Gamecocks, and lost 71-100. In the wreckage, Notre Dame was introduced to freshman guard Hannah Hidalgo, who dropped 31 points in the effort. In addition, Hidalgo has won 3 ACC Rookie of the Week awards, 1 ACC Player of the Week award, and 1 USBWA Tamika Catchings National Freshman of the Week award. Hidalgo is the second Irish player in program history to win an ACC Rookie of the Week and ACC Player of the Week award in the same week. After game 1, where they got torched by the Gamecocks, this team has been on a fire streak, as they have been on a 5-game winning streak with dominating wins over NJIT, Northwestern, Chicago State, Ball State, and a close win against Illinois, and they also had a close win, 74-69, big comeback against number 20 Tennessee in the ACC-SEC Challenge. After a defensive struggle against South Carolina, Notre Dame has held opponents to under 70 points in every game and held Chicago State to a near record of 35 points. This defensive dominance has been led by Hannah Hidalgo in the steals department, as she has had 38 steals. Overall, the team has averaged a staggering 14.5 steals per game. Notre Dame has also averaged 4.5 blocks per game, led by Maddie Westbeld and Kylie Watson, who have combined for 12 blocks so far this year. With rebounds, Notre Dame has had 44.8 rebounds per game. Maddie Westbeld leads the team with 56 rebounds. All of these steals and rebounds have minimized the opponent's time in our own zone, has minimized the opponent's scoring opportunities, and has destroyed any and all momentum that they have been able to get, and has also given the Irish offense more possession time to be dominant and click on all cylinders. Consequently, Notre Dame this year so far has had 3 100-point efforts, their highest effort being 113 points against Chicago State. So far this year, Notre Dame has made 16 free throws per game and has capitalized on 77.4% of their free-throw chances. This is led by Hidalgo, who has made 25 free throws. KK Bransford has gone 16 through 20 with 80%, and Sonia Citron has gone 8 for 9 with 89%. In terms of points, Sonia Citron has had 20.3 points per game, and Hidalgo has had 25 points per game, leading the offensive scoring charge. Overall, despite playing subpar competition, Notre Dame's women's basketball has been shining and recently got a top 20 win. Not as good as it should be considering our goals to win a national championship or make the Final Four, but still a solid start. With ACC play approaching soon, it'll be interesting to see if this early momentum will carry over when the temperature heats up.
And welcome to Jadarian Price is Right. I'm your host, Jacob Bob Barker Irons. And so, at the beginning of the year in our season preview, we decided to play the Price is Right with over, scrimmage yards, and a bunch of different numbers we would have. So we had Tyler Reidy and JJ Post. Now, we promised you in our season preview we would look back, and now it is that time to look back. So let's start with our namesake, Jadarian Price. We asked whether it would be how many rushing yards he would have in the line of scrimmage. JJ had 300, while on the other side, T. Reed had 387. That is a lot.
Specific number.
That is quite a lot.
What led you to 387?
Well, guys, it did not go well for Mr. Price. Actual number, 230. 230, both of them hit the over. They do not get the money. No over.
We were playing for money?
Well, we were
Should have
gonna
said $1.
Well, you should have said $1, but let's keep moving on. We had a lot of optimism this year, so let's keep moving. Let's go. Jordan Othello, how many sacks would he have? JJ Post had 5. Tyler Reidy had 6, and he had quite a year. However, it was only 3. JJ, can you talk me through some of the rationale, how we got to 5 and how we sit here at 3?
Yeah, I'll give you the exact same answer I gave you when we first answered this question, which was Botelho is by nature a boom or bust player. You know, there are games when you could feel like he's having a real tangible game wrecker impact, and there are games where you hardly see him at all. You know, he is a player that when he's on, and the consistency is not always a given. And so I said, you know, I think he could go for 10 sacks. I think he could go for 1 sack. I split the difference and said 5, and I ended up ever so slightly closer than Tyler, but still over.
Still over. Sorry, T. Reed.
Yeah.
Well, let's keep moving. Let's keep moving. Now, the big pickup in the offseason was the man, Sam Hartman, who has become so endeared onto this campus, has Chick-fil-A Tuesdays and Thursdays with Joe Alt, taking picture with faculty. I was sitting next to the Dean of Undergraduate Studies in Arts and Letters. She's got a selfie with the man. This guy took over campus, but the question was, how many passing touchdowns would he have? JJ Post, you bet a strong 25. T. Reed went with 29. Tough, tough. He actually had 24, but due to Price is Right, JJ Post, you do not get to come on down. He was pretty spectacular, Reidy.
Yeah, I mean, you were really feeling good about this 4 weeks into the season. There were just those games, you know, you look at Duke on the road, Louisville, you don't have those 3-4 touchdown games you're expecting Sam Hartman to deliver in the big moments. And I think that's what you and I were banking on. We were banking on more of a shootout against Ohio State, maybe against Clemson as well, and that just didn't really happen. A lot of these games were very low scoring. You mentioned the offense and the question marks about Gerard Parker and the functionality of the unit, and Sam Hartman, 24 ended up being a pretty decent number. It climbed even further up the all-time FBS list. Congratulations to him on all the accolades he set this season, but didn't get it done for us.
No. He did not. He did. Tough one.
Let the record show, I think there was at least a couple goal line situations where maybe a rollout would have been more applicable than a run up the gut. But aside from that.
Aside from that, strong showing. But now let's continue on to Morrison interception. Ben Morrison had a historic year in 2022. However, this year it was Xavier Watts, not Ben Morrison like many projected. But now this is the big moment of time. JJ Post had 3. Tyler Reidy, sound the bell, hit it right on the money. 2 interceptions for Ben Morrison this year, which he makes him the Price is Right champion.
Going to the showcase.
Going to the showcase. He's spinning the wheel,
right,
hoping for $1. But what do you think this defense showed? Did it show more diversity by having Xavier Watts step into that and have Ben Morrison take a step back? What do you think it showed?
Yeah, I don't even know if it was necessarily a step back for Ben Morrison. I mean, maybe part of the reason he only had 2 is because he missed a game against Pitt in there and dealt with some injury concerns toward the end of October. But, I mean, at the same time, you're looking at teams maybe less inclined to throw his way. And the same goes for Cam Hart on the other side. I think this secondary just ended up being so good that a lot of teams were very tentative about throwing at some of these cornerbacks, and as a result, Xavier Watts reaped a lot more of the benefits than maybe you would have expected. But yeah, as far as the secondary goes, and assuming that things stay pretty much intact and structural during the transfer portal times here, encouraging signs, no doubt.
Very encouraging signs indeed. You lost.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to say, just to
Good
clarify,
morning,
that I was on the right
everyone,
track.
and
'Cause I
welcome-
did make a
You
note.
were close.
I made a note. No, here, wait. I made a note when I was talking about Morrison. I said, I don't think Morrison picks, but I do think one player is going to have a breakout year and get Morrison-type numbers. I had picked Cam Hart. I was on the right track. It was Watts, not Hart. But unfortunately, I did lose.
Yeah, you did lose. I will give it to JJ Post. Although, once again, as my 6th grade science teacher says, close doesn't always get the cigar.
Horseshoe
But
and hand grenades.
in the horseshoe and hand grenades, you were really close. It just didn't pay off, and the Price is Right.
Much like Notre Dame football.
That is very true.
One might say I was 1 yard and 1 man on defense away.
Wow, maybe that was too soon. But first, this is Shamrock Sports on NDTV. We'll take a quick break.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to ND Sunrise.
This is the
Review of the Keenan Review.
That's right, we've got a big game in Sin City.
Plot twist, I am the Grim Reaper.
Overall, this year's event was a rousing success.
would Notre Dame be the first one to accept ASL as a foreign language as a department?
Once again, I'm Elena Morgan from ND Sunrise, signing off.
Welcome you back. Now it's time for the newest, greatest addition to this show. We ditched the jackets. You got to be able to move here. Got to be able to move because it is Sham-bookie. It is one of the greatest times here on the second floor of the Duncan Student Center. We got all four of us together. We got our Christmas swag on. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling festive. What do you want for Christmas this year in Sham-bookie?
I want another close Big 12 championship game. We've gotten it the last 5 years in a row. Each of the last 5 Big 12 championships have been decided by 12 points or less, and I think this one will be no different. 15.5, although. Oklahoma State got the Cowboys keeping this one within a little more than 2 touchdowns here against the Texas Longhorns. Texas, the heavy favorite, of course, potentially on track to make the college football playoff with a win and maybe a little bit of help outside it as well. But Oklahoma State's coming off a big win at home, overtime against BYU, to make it to Arlington, Texas in the Big 12 championship game. They're riding high, and they've got some recent experience in the big game as well as far as conference play goes. Meanwhile, Texas, there's been a big debate throughout the college football landscape about heading into the playoff. Is Texas' closeness in games in the Big 12 a concerning sign compared to a team like Oregon and more running away with games in the Pac-12? But I mean, these people are right. Texas has been much closer in these games than a lot of people maybe would like to see them get into the college football playoff. So I don't think Texas is necessarily the type of immortal team that we might be looking at since the loss to Oklahoma in the Red River rivalry game. These Big 12 games tend to be pretty close. I don't see a ton of scoring here. I also like the under in this one, but my number one pick will be Oklahoma State plus 15.5.
That was one I was flirting with. You look at it. Is Sark going to be there? I don't know.
Why would Sark be there?
Well, I mean his
You
offense.
have some intel that we don't have?
I mean offense.
Is he your new offensive coordinator?
Okay. But then you also hear about the horn. Didn't go so well at a frat house. So there's a lot of fire being played there.
Sensitive subject.
But I will go and push on, and I'm going to Las Vegas. Nothing stays in Vegas. Everything comes out of Vegas tonight. And it is going to be a big game here where we're looking at Oregon and Washington. Give me the mighty Huskies. I think this is going to be a game. It's a foretelling for what I think you're going to see a little bit later in my college football 4 teams, but I think this is a really good game. Why? They're spotting Oregon at 10.5. I don't know why. I understand lines may have changed by the time you guys are watching this since the book are fluctuating so much. I think this is going to be a great matchup. You look at the first game earlier this year between the two powers. It was a close one. It was decided by a field goal, but many people had been speculating that it was the 4th down conversions of Oregon that kept them out of the game. I don't think it was. I think it was a really well-played game by the Huskies. I think you're going to get another good one in Las Vegas tonight on the Friday night. It is going to be a fabulous game. Why the Huskies are 10-point underdogs, I have no idea. They should be 10-point favorites potentially in this game. I think they are that good. I really like the Huskies.
Strong words.
I don't know about 10-point favorites. I like your pick. But I don't know about 10-point favorites. I'll tell you what I want for Christmas, Jake.
What do you want for Christmas?
I want
the hippopotamus?
I want the Iowa Hawkeyes to do the funniest thing ever and absolutely shock the football world. I want Brian Ferentz to do it. I don't know if they're going to beat Michigan, but I'll tell you what, I'd make a terrible better because I pretty much just want to go on gut feel the entire time. That's why I kind of keep myself away from it.
It's not the way to go. It's not the way to go.
This is gut feel and humor. I think the Iowa Hawkeyes are going to make it much closer than 22.5. I think it's just an easy line. I like their defense a lot. I don't think Michigan, I think Michigan's a very good team, and I think Michigan will ultimately win the game, but I think this is going to be a lot closer than people believe. I know it hasn't been that close in the Big Ten championship when Michigan's been in it the last few years, but I really like the Hawkeyes to keep things close here, especially early on against Michigan.
Is this line here on punts or points? What are we talking about
here? I'm hoping we get 22.5 punts.
JJ, post really quickly.
Yeah, so like you said, stuff comes out of Vegas. You know something that's come out of Vegas this week? The Heisman Trophy with Bo Nix, because I wrote it down. This is the year. Bo Nix has improved so much under this new offense. He's focused. He's having fun. I wouldn't be surprised if he's no longer a dark horse to the Heisman. He's the leader for the Heisman. I'm as confused as you are, but it's true. So, Oregon, over the last few weeks has been destroying teams. They have looked like, I wouldn't say the best team in college football, but they certainly have looked like a top 4 team in college football. And Washington, they keep finding ways to win, and that is an underrated quality of a team, but you can't survive by scraping by forever. They only beat Oregon the first time because Oregon got stupid on 4th down. I would like to think Dan Lanning has learned from his mistakes.
No, this is horrible. This is a horrible take. I just want to know, hold on, time out. I'm interrupting here. I'm interrupting because I'm going to remind people. Someone said hammer Colorado State and put on glasses. It's a prime factor. Guess what? He's saying that again. He's saying that again. Stop it. Yeah.
Last year, this same show, you wondered why Alabama was in the playoffs.
Okay, I knew you would bring this up.
At the time, and they weren't even in the SEC championship game.
Well,
I'll have my betting knowledge stood down. It's not very good. But you thought Bama with 2 losses was in the playoff conversation last year. I'm not taking anything from you.
That's fair. That's fair. That is fair.
This is what happens when 2 sham-bookie candidates go up against each other.
Not good. Not good here. But there is another team going up against an even better rival, and that's Indiana going up against Notre Dame men's soccer this weekend for a spot to go to Louisville for the College Cup. Our own Trey Cody breaks it down.
What a transition.
What's up, Irish fans? Trey Cody at Shamrock Sports here, checking in for your Notre Dame men's soccer preview. This past Sunday, the overall 2-seeded Irish took on Western Michigan at home in the Sweet 16. The weather was definitely a factor, with snow covered all over the field and it coming down pretty hard the entire game. And it was an extremely physical game that saw the Irish play the majority of the match with 10 men after an early red card from KK Bafour. After a 0-0 90 minutes and double overtime, the Irish took the game home in penalties, winning 4-2, with Daniel Russo making the 4th penalty and clinching an Elite 8 berth for the Irish. The next game for the boys will be this Saturday at 5 p.m. at home against the Indiana Hoosiers, which is a rematch of the first game of the year, which was also at Alumni Stadium. Fans can look forward to a fast-paced, exciting game with a lot of chances. If Irish fans could make it out to the game on Saturday against Indiana, that'd be awesome, and we'd love to see you there. It's at 5 p.m. at home at Alumni Stadium. Come out and support the boys as they look to make the Final Four for the first time since 2021. That matchup would be either against the winner of North Carolina or Oregon State, and hopefully we can make it there. Go Irish.
There you go.
And we welcome you back. Let's take a look directly at it. We talked about the college football playoffs and how it would look. Tyler, you're going with a pretty traditional minus since you're putting Texas in here.
Yeah, I think this is the safe pick here. It revolves around Georgia and Michigan, 2 favorites in their respective games, winning. Oregon, the favorite out of the Pac-12, and then Texas gets in. You'd expect them to beat Oklahoma State, and this also rides on not having to worry about a potentially undefeated but diminished Florida State team without maybe its first or second string quarterback. I think it's pretty likely at this point that Louisville will have a good shot at beating Florida State, certainly a better shot than any of the underdogs in other conferences. So this is my top 4. I think JJ has the same thing, as we'll see in a moment. But Georgia, Michigan, Oregon, Texas.
All right, I'll keep pushing us here.
Wait, how?
Explain.
Please explain.
Talk me through it.
We in the audience want to know.
All right. Once again, I am the odd duckling out of this entire show. I'm owning this. I'm owning it. I get it. I'm going off gut. My gut tells me that's what I do. I put B on a test. That's what I'm doing here. I'm putting W, though. This time it's Washington. So Texas will lose to Oklahoma State. That's how I have this. They lose to Oklahoma State. Louisville, I think, takes care of Florida State. I think there's no conversation there. However, I say this game is a really close one. I think it's close enough.
I thought you said Washington should be favored by 10.5.
Yes, I did say that. But for college football rankings, I think the blowout for Texas is going to be enough. And then you're going to have 2 teams that are only 1 losses, and 1 losses are going to be to each other. I think there's enough here to have Washington be able to sneak in. Once again, remind you, I'm adding the Texas loss. I'm not just basing it off of a 1-loss Texas team. I'm adding a Texas loss into here. Oh. I think 2 Pac-12. Might as well have the Pac-12 go out with glory. And me and Murph were talking about this before. There's a possibility with the 1v4 that these 2 could then see each other in the championship game, and a Pac-12 could be the champion. I'm betting on it. Give me this as your 4.
Just wait till they put Ohio State in for the loser.
I know.
I don't want it. Just wait until they do it.
That would be a fascinating. I'm not doing that, but that would be a fascinating result. I think it's interesting. We talked about a little bit this week preparing for the show. Like Florida State, if they win, they're 13-0. They should make it in, right? They're 13-0, but none of us are going to pick Florida State, and I think that's because we all have them losing for the most part. Yeah. I do a little bit different. I just have Washington winning the game, and I think if they win, they're in. Same scenario as these guys. I think Texas gets it done against Oklahoma State. I think they're just the best team, especially if Florida State loses to fill that 4 seed. It'd be a real entertaining playoff.
Okay.
Post.
I went the same way as Tyler. He mentioned it. We've got the same rankings. I think Oregon beats Washington. I think that style points wise, they have the one loss, but I think the committee, whether that's good or bad, has consistently valued style points throughout the ranking. Oregon has shown style points down the stretch. Texas, I think, is more of a default pick. I don't think Texas is bad by any means, but I don't think they're a shoo-in either. I think you can make reasonable arguments for Washington if they lose that game over Texas. But I think at the end of the day, Texas has the brand power. They will not have the recency bias of a Washington loss that I think will probably affect the committee. I think this is probably, I'd say mathematically, maybe if you looked at the bookies only, the most likely playoff to happen. So no hot takes in that. But and as much as was tempted to maybe pull the trigger on an Alabama upset of Georgia because never can bet against Nick Saban in the SEC championship game. I couldn't do it. I think Georgia just has the firepower to pull it off. And, maybe Tommy Rees, inventor of some wild postseason strategies, as we've seen in the past, the Jack Cohn 70 pass game will not be forgotten. Maybe he's got something up his sleeve. It wouldn't put him past him. But I think at the end of the day, I'm going with the most likely result, and that would be Georgia, Michigan, Oregon, Texas.
All right.
And I also think after how much Nick Saban has been preaching on media over the past week that we don't also have Alabama in here as well.
No.
I think it's a very interesting and a necessary conversation we had that Alabama won't find itself in the 4.
Well, if Alabama beats Georgia tomorrow, all bets are off about everything that we predicted.
If they beat Georgia, they're in.
Absolutely.
There's no question.
No question.
But yeah, no, I mean, it's weird too because I feel like this is an Alabama team I'd like. It's weirdly likable. I feel like I can root for this Alabama team. They're not the Death Star they usually are. They've got an offense. Jalen Milroe's got a great story, and being bench game 2, coming back, leading the team. It's a fun team, and it's almost a shame. Almost a shame, not a shame that they're not going to be in the playoff. But if they do make it, they'll have my support. I think.
Yeah, I like it. We'll take a quick break, and we'll hear where we're going. We're going bowling, people. Not strikes and spares. We're going to Florida. Where are we going? We'll tell you about that next. But first, this is Shamrock Sports on NDTV.
Hi Irish, my name is Elise Dahoney and I'm NDTV Director of Operations. If you'd like to support NDTV, make sure to click on the link on the screen or in our description. It's an Amazon link, will take you straight to the site, and any purchase you make through that link, we receive a small portion of the revenue. This is a great way to support NDTV and get all those things you need for the perfect Notre Dame tailgate. I'm talking, mugs and flags and hats and all the merch that you need. So make sure to click on that link and support NDTV. We're here for all of you. Thank you.
Welcome you back here to the second floor of the Duncan Student Center. We're finishing it off with our bowl predictions here. Tyler Reidy, I think you got the prediction that most people are hoping for and wanting for. What is it?
It's the popular one. Ow, that hurt. But it's the popular one on the show here. I'm glad I didn't get my flu shot today. That's tomorrow. But anyway here. I'm going to go to the ReliQuest Bowl. LSU here. LSU. And I think the models, from what I've seen, are leaning in favor of this. It's hard to go against that. The alternative, which you're going to bring up here, is Pop-Tarts against Oklahoma State. I think I'm a little less in favor of that because you're looking at 2 teams here, Notre Dame and LSU, that are done. They have no more games left to play outside their bowl game, so I'm going to stick with the one that's probably going to be most stagnant. We don't know what Oklahoma State's going to do Saturday against Texas. If that changes anything, so I'll go ReliQuest against Brian Kelly and LSU.
Once again, I'll be the odd duck. I'm going to take it. I understand it is a hot take.
Well, I don't know if it's a hot take.
I think it's a hot take from us. Give me the Pop-Tart Bowl. I haven't had a Pop-Tart since freshman year of high school.
It's the edible mascot.
It's the edible mascot. They will have an edible mascot for the first time this year.
Pop-Tarts mascot.
Come on. Popcorn.
Wow.
Who don't love them?
Look at that.
You can eat them cold. You don't even put them in the toaster. It's amazing.
Jake, I don't want to call you out again, but the math that was required to get us in the Pop-Tart roll directly contradicts everything you were saying about how the conference championship.
Hold on though.
It's got to be one of the 2. The scenario needed is not the scenario you described 10 minutes ago.
I'm basing everything.
An interesting argument for why Notre Dame should be in the Pop-Tarts Bowl.
Correct. My argument for the Pop-Tarts Bowl here in this situation is we don't want to play on January 1st. Our guys understand the issue at hand. We didn't make a New Year's 6. We didn't. Let's cut the crap and we're going to do it. We didn't make a New Year's 6 here. Why do you want to play on January 1st? Get your guys home as early as possible. Notre Dame has a little bit of wiggle room that they can advocate for a bowl they want to go in. So wouldn't they rather go to a bowl that's on December 28th, 5:15? It's a nice slot. You get some primetime action in there as well, but you get your guys home for the expected New Year's Day, get them a longer break, get them refreshed and coming in. That is my argument for it, that Notre Dame themselves is pushing for that a little bit more, not that the college football world dictates it as well. And also, I'm a media rights guy. There's no media change either between the both of them are 5 o'clock on ESPN, so you don't even add or subtract anything different. You just subtract an opponent. And let me add, we talk about Brian Kelly versus LSU. Let me add, it would be a revenge game for Marcus Freeman. His first game as the head coach of Notre Dame football came against the Cowboys. I'm just saying, revenge game maybe. I'll keep eating my Pop-Tart though.
I think it's a solid argument, right? And I think the TV piece is quite honestly one of the more fascinating parts of that. But I'm going to the Royal Aquas Bowl too. I just think, from a TV perspective, why wouldn't you want Notre Dame versus LSU? It doesn't matter the time. It doesn't matter the day. People are going to eat it up. The ratings are going to be great. It's an automatic storyline, right? We've talked for a lot of us, maybe not traveling to the bowl. It's not a big bowl game, but like, hey, if it's LSU, maybe it's worthwhile because it's just that kind of a storyline. I think there's a lot of appetite out there for it. So I think it's the most palatable non-New Year's Six matchup by far if it does end up coming to be.
I hate to keep piling on Jacob's argument, but
you're good.
He made an interesting point. With Notre Dame does have some, clout where they can try to flex in and out of bowl games. What we miss here is if they go to the Pop-Tart Bowl, if they try to push that, the optics of ducking Brian Kelly's LSU would genuinely be something I don't think Notre Dame could tolerate taking.
I agree.
And people would, I don't care
it would
what
come
the
out,
reason is.
and it would come out. I do agree on that.
And there is fair reason to say, hey, Pop-Tarts will make a little more sense. But it would be seen as Notre Dame doesn't want to play Brian Kelly. They're afraid of LSU. And I don't think Notre Dame's administration is not aware of that. And I don't think they want to deal with that. So I'll take the Royal Aquas Bowl against LSU. I'm not particularly excited about it, in all honesty. I think if Jaden Daniels plays, that could get ugly. But, I also feel it's going to be all backups on both sides. It's going to be just kind of a funny game. It's going to be our scrubs versus their scrubs. It's going to be our number 2 team versus their number 2 team. And we're just going to have some fun with it, which is, I think, the point of bowl season.
The real bowl game is Notre Dame versus the depth chart at this point.
Yes.
I think that's the main argument here.
In segment 1.
Which walk-on receiver earns the receiver 5 spot? Because right now, that is open to Henry Cook if you want to come take it. Anyone, feel free to take WR5.
Are you trying?
Are you trying?
At this rate, man.
Hey, I don't know. Fisher Hall looking pretty good. Pop-Tart? Hold on, you're going to hold my Pop-Tarts here. This is the last show of our semester. We want to thank everybody who works behind the scenes and in front of the camera throughout the entire semester. This is always a special group. We've got some great time. You don't want a Pop-Tart, JJ? I know you don't want it, but it's a lot of fun to be had. We thank you for watching. We hope you come back in January because guess what? We got more Irish sports to talk about. For Tyler Reidy, Ryan Murphy, JJ Post, I'm Jacob Iron saying so long and Merry Christmas.
All right.
Hey, I want more of those. gimme.
Good work.
Hey, good work, buddy.
Well done.
And we're coming
Thank you.
to Tampa.
Well done.